up? It's your boy. There's probably a large group of you who watch my videos constantly, who know about me, who want to learn Japanese. And if you're an anime watcher, if you're a fan of any kind of Japanese media, whether that be anime, manga, games, Japanese movies, Japanese podcasts, then you've probably listened to some Nihongo and gone, damn, that sounds like a cool language to learn. I want to learn to be Nihongo jozu as well. But there's probably also a large group of you who don't know where to begin, or perhaps you're already on that journey currently and are at a bit of a roadblock, don't know how to improve any better. And first and foremost, I just want to say there is nothing wrong with being on that roadblock. There is nothing wrong with being a little bit afraid to step into the world of Japanese, especially if you're an English speaker, because it is a very difficult language to learn. Trust me, I've been learning it all my life. And after seeing a lot of my friends and people who are around me in my life who are at the same roadblock of learning Japanese, I figured I wanted to make this video to kind of extend a hand from someone who has been studying it all their life and I'd say is pretty fluent at it. Just some tips and tricks for you guys to improve upon your Nihongo so that you can truly reach that enlightened Nihongo jozu moment. So I put together a quick 5-step program, or 5 best ways to improve your Japanese according to me. Now, let me just put in a full disclaimer here, just in case there are any Japanese experts watching this video. 1, I am not claiming that these are the end-all be-all methods to improve your Japanese. This is just my personal opinion on what I think are the 5 best ways to improve your Japanese. 2, I am not a Japanese teacher by any means. I have taught Japanese to some people. In fact, I've done an entire video of it on my main channel and covered it in a bunch of videos on this very channel as well. But there is no like full, academic credibility to these 5 methods. This is just from my experience of learning the language and my experience of casually teaching the language to other people. And 3, I'm not saying that these 5 methods are going to work for every single Japanese learner. Obviously, everybody is different. Everybody's learning methods are different. Some of these methods may not work on you at all, and some of these methods might be the answer to that roadblock that you've been facing. So take everything I say with a grain of salt. But let's just jump right into it. The first step is, I think, the most common mistake that a lot of people make, and I think is personally the most effective, which is surrounding yourself. What do I mean by that? Well, I don't necessarily mean, go to Japan and surround yourself with Japanese people. Of course, that is a very effective method for any language, just living in the culture that speaks that language primarily. In this case, going to Japan, surrounding yourself with perhaps only Japanese people who can't speak a word of the language that is native to you. Yes, obviously is a great method for any language, including Japanese, but that is also a lot easier said than done. A lot of people have lives that they have already built up in their current country of residence and can't just pack up a bag and fly to Japan for a year to get Nihongo jozu. So for the people who are in those situations, what I mean by surrounding yourself is that in every other aspect of your life, you should try to surround yourself with the Japanese language as much as you possibly can. And the easiest method in that instance is the different types of media that you consume on a day-to-day basis. Whether that be turning on some Japanese TV, maybe watching some Japanese YouTube videos, listening to Japanese music and reading along with the lyrics to try and understand what the singer is actually saying. Reading Japanese books like textbooks and even manga and anime. There are a lot of people in the past here on YouTube who have claimed that you can't learn Japanese just from reading manga and watching anime. In a lot of aspects, yes, I do agree with that notion, but I also don't think that manga and anime is like the most pointless study material that you could be using to learn Japanese either. In fact, I've made a video on the second channel explaining just how beneficial reading manga and watching anime can be in learning Japanese if you use it in the correct method. Links to that is in the card up the top there if you're interested in checking that out. But I think what's really important important is to just keep yourself surrounded with it at all times, because language is a skill. And if you're not constantly being subject to using that skill, and in the case with language, just hearing it and getting your brain used to hearing it and listening to it and understanding it actively, then it's really difficult to improve any further. Like, there is literally no point, I think, in sitting down, reading manga for 30 minutes, and then going about your day not consuming Japanese medium at all. Like, yes, you might learn it eventually after a lot of time, but that is also a very slow method, which admittedly, a lot of people who learn Japanese don't really have the time or patience to go through. When weebs want to learn Japanese, they want to learn it fast, they want to learn it actively, they want to learn it quickly. And the best way to do that is to, again, surround yourself with that medium as much as you possibly can without it obviously getting in the way of your real world life. Second step I want to talk about is, I think, a point that a lot of Japanese classes and teachers don't really talk about, and that is understanding your native language. What I mean by that is, obviously everybody has their own native language. If you were born in a country that has a language, which I hope you do, then you obviously have your native language, and in a lot of cases with people, Japanese is their second language or their third language that they are learning, different from their native language. And what I have found from teaching Japanese to people just casually is that it's made me realize and question a lot of rules and grammatical structures and just how the language forms in my own native language. In my case, it is English. The difference, especially between how grammatically structured English is compared to how grammatically structured Japanese is, couldn't be further away from each other on the spectrum. You could be at any level of Japanese competency and realize just how different Japanese is from English in every aspect of the word. And I think with learning any language, if you don't have a good footing on the language that you know the most, aka your own native language, it's really difficult or more difficult to understand concepts of how other languages operate. Look, you don't have to be like a linguistics expert in your own native language to get a better footing of understanding another language. I'm not saying that, but what I'm saying is, if you don't understand how your native language works, then how are you supposed to understand how other languages work? Because although grammatically Japanese and English may be very different, in a lot of ways, a lot of languages, including Japanese, don't really have the most complex grammatical structures. In fact, if you, again, understand how your native language works and understand the differences between your native language and Japanese, then it becomes a lot easier to wrap your head around understanding a different grammatical structure. Obviously, there isn't a one-to-one comparison between the two, but it gave me a better understanding of just how grammar in general, regardless of any language, works and operates and functions. Step number 3, and this is one that I very, very heavily incentivize, is diversify your study materials. Now, I kind of touched upon it in the first point, but again, it's all about diversification. Don't just read manga, don't just watch anime, don't just listen to Japanese music, don't just talk to your Japanese friend. Because think about it, when you're learning your native language, right, in a lot of people's cases, it's probably English watching this video. When you were learning English as a child, you didn't just read Dr. Seuss books. No, you probably talked to your parents. You probably talked to your friends. You listened to TV. You read books. You listened to music. It applies to every single language you are learning, because that is the most effective method of studying a language. So yes, go ahead, read your manga, watch your anime, but also try to step foot into other methods as well. And there are an absolute plethora of methods that you could be using. You know, you could start reading the Japanese newspaper. You could turn on the Japanese news. You can go onto YouTube and watch like the Coco Melon equivalent in Japan and just try and get a footing through that. Honestly, there isn't really a type of medium out there that is bad or ineffective for learning a language. No matter how crude or crass the language diversity that you may be learning from a particular media might be, it still adds to the knowledge pool. Granted, is it a piece of knowledge that you're going to be using in everyday life? Maybe not. Like if you watch JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, you're probably not going to be saying kono dioda or ora in your everyday life unless you're an insufferable weeb. But there are little snippets and pointers that you can take from even the most what seems like the most mundane pieces of Japanese media and speech and grammar and utilize that in everyday life. So again, diversify your study materials. Try to consume it in all sorts of different ways, because that, at the end of the day, all piles up into the knowledge pool that you have. The fourth one, which is definitely something that I see with a lot of people who are just starting off learning the language, is don't be afraid to make mistakes. This is such a huge problem because it actively stops learners from trying to speak the language or ask questions about how it works. And in a lot of ways, making mistakes, learning Japanese or learning Japanese grammar, I feel demotivates a lot of learners into being like, oh, I keep making fucking mistakes, man. This is too hard. I'm just going to throw it away and do something easier. Of course you're going to be making mistakes. You're trying to learn something that your brain previously couldn't even comprehend. You could ask any fucking polyglot out there who can speak 10 languages fluently. There isn't a single language that they went through where they didn't make a handful of mistakes trying to learn the language. Like, think about it in the sense of learning a new musical instrument. Like, you're of course you're going to make mistakes playing a guitar or playing a piano, learning a scale, learning a chord, because your brain doesn't know how it works yet. But it's through those mistakes and pushing through those mistakes and learning from those mistakes that improves your skill. Which leads me into the fifth and final method, which is studying actively. What I mean by that is there are two different types of studying when it comes to language in my eyes. There is passive study and there is active study. Passive study is what I like to call when you just sit in front of a textbook all day and just read a textbook, or watch a YouTube video and just listen in on that video. Of course, there is nothing wrong with passive study if that's the method that works for you, but no matter what type of learner you might be, if you don't have active study, then you are never going to improve on the skill. Don't just listen to a YouTube video. Repeat back. Open your mouth. Actually use it to help with your enunciation and your speaking as well. When you read a textbook, don't just read it in your head. Actively read it out loud with your mouth. Like, this is a method that I still use to this day. Whenever I read a Japanese book or even some manga just in my spare time and I'm sitting alone in my room just reading it quietly, I never just read it quietly. I actually actively say whatever I am reading under my breath, very subtly. You don't have to like do a full like dramatical reading of whatever you're reading, unless that is a method that you want to go for. But you can really kill two birds in one stone if you study in this way, because you could just be reading a textbook and just improving on your reading skills, but why not do both at the same time? Why not improve your reading skills at the same time as improving your speaking and enunciation as well? Obviously, the best method when it comes to studying actively is to actively talk to someone and converse with someone who is native in the language you're speaking. In this case, actively talk to and have conversations with Japanese people. And you don't have to come to Japan in order to do that. There are lots of learning apps out there and lots of SNS and social media platforms where you can very easily approach people who are like that, because on the vice versa, there are probably a lot of Japanese people who want to improve on their English or whatever language they are that they're learning. They might be a native language to you. So again, it's a two birds with one stone method. You can teach them English while you learn Japanese from them. It's a win-win situation. And again, I feel this is so important because passive study can only get you so far. Like, yeah, sure, you could buy 10 fucking Japanese textbooks and master all of the grammar. But if you don't use the grammar, then what's the point? That's like watching, 50 hours of guitar tutorials without owning a guitar. So again, it's all about that active studying. If you don't go out there and actively use what you have learned, then it's going to disappear from your mind. And I feel, again, this is a big roadblock that a lot of people have. Go out there and try and make friends with Japanese people. When you come to Japan, avoid using English as much as you possibly can in your short stay there. Because even if you're in Japan for like a couple of days, just trying to get about, learning and actively using what you have learned, again, regardless of if they're mistakes or not, the more you actively use it, the better you are going to get at it, and the better you are going to get at picking up those mistakes so that you don't make them again. So yeah, that was just my quick little video. Hopefully it helped in any way. I'm sure there are other methods as well that I didn't pinpoint in this video that maybe some of you guys are actively using at the moment to learn Japanese. So let me know down in the comments below, what are your best methods that you have found personally that could be used from other Japanese learners as well. And I guess the final point I want to make, which I make at the end of every one of these like learning Japanese videos, is that Japanese is fucking hard. There is no denying that. It is a very difficult language to learn and comprehend and understand, especially if you are an English speaker. But it is not impossible to learn. Yes, it might take a long time, and with any language, rushing into it and rushing to perfection is never a good method. It's a slow, arduous process of understanding subtleties, understanding the culture around it, and understanding that it is very different from your native language. But at the end of the day, it is a very pleasing and wholesome and very, I guess, rewarding experience as well to go through, especially if you love Japan and you love Japanese culture, which I'm sure a lot of you do. After 28 years, I'm still actively trying to use my Japanese as much as possible in my videos, in my everyday life. And I'm always finding a new word or a new phrase or a new grammatical rule that I can utilize in my everyday life that is just making me constantly improve Japanese. The ceiling is never ending. So good luck everyone, and hey, thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video and want more, I guess, like Japanese tips and tricks from me on this channel, then leave a like on this video so I know you guys enjoy it. If you have any questions about Japanese that I can maybe perhaps turn into videos like these, then also let me know down in the comments, or let me know on my Patreon, which I'll leave in the description. And hey, thanks for watching, guys. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to smack my face right here to subscribe to the channel. Let's keep making big channel number go bigger. And over here next to my head, a couple more videos you can check out if you enjoyed this one, and links to all my social media as well as my Patreon, as I previously mentioned, and my YouTube Shorts and TikTok page, which are blowing up, by the way. Thank you very much. It's all down in the description below, and I will see you all in the next one. Peace.